Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Deep Culture Podcast. I'm really excited for today's episode because it's also a very unique experience that we're going to be sharing about with a good friend of mine who I met last year while he was working in one of the great event companies around here in Singapore. So here's a bit of context about what we're going to be talking about. For most of us, the guys here in Singapore, we all have to go through national service, right, at some point of our lives. For some of us, it's usually the case of going very early, which is between 16 to 18 years old. However, for today's guest, it was a kind of unique experience because not only was he transferring over from an overseas country to Singapore, but he was also asked to serve national service at the age of 26. So I thought it would be interesting to have him on this podcast episode to share with us what it was like not only to serve national service at 26, but what it was like also to serve it coming from a different country as well, and what was his adaptation like in terms of culture. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mark Adam Collins to the Deep Culture Podcast. Mark, welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you very much. I'm flying in, as you can see there, Mr. Padley. Thank you for having me on the podcast. It's I appreciate being here and appreciate the opportunity to share my unique experience.
You're most welcome, man. I look forward to hearing this interesting story, man. Especially since you got that whole Maverick thing going on at the back.
Yeah. But as we go along, I didn't actually go into the Air Force. I didn't get this far. Yeah, but
the story itself sounds like a Maverick, so it kind of suits.
Yeah, well, it kind of suits. It kind of suits.
suits.
I'm a nice guy, so I'm not like Maverick.
You sure are a nice guy,
I'm a very
man.
good person. So where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with the story? You want to start just before, or I can tell you?
Let's start with let's start with what were you doing? Where were you from before that? Right before having to come to Singapore, and what were you doing?
Okay, so before that, I was before I went into NS. Well, I found out I was in NS. Actually, I was unemployed for a long time, for quite a while, because I came back to Singapore, and then the global financial crisis hit. But before that, I was in New York, and I was setting up a nonprofit organization in New York, in Manhattan, New York. And then I came back, and see, at this time, I'm still holding on to an Australian passport, and at this time, I believe that I was Australian, and I didn't have any ties with Singapore.
Right.
And I came back to Singapore, and on a tourist visa. And I was because my mom lived in JB, so I would commute here and there between Singapore and JB.
Right.
And I was trying to look for work, and what had happened was after a long time, I decided I was going to take this course to teach English to speakers of other languages, so people who are learning English as their second language.
Right.
I thought I could get the ability or get the chance to travel, and also work, travel, live overseas, and study, look at different cultures and things like that. So I did the course, and the place that I was doing the course, they said, "Hey, we want to employ you as a teacher." I was like, "Okay, great." I said, "Great." So we have to send in your application for employment visa, because you're Australian, blah blah blah.
Yep.
So I said, "Okay." Gave them the details, and then I went in, and they said, "Hey, we have a letter email from MOM, and they said that we can't process this application because he's still a Singapore citizen," meaning I was still a Singapore citizen. And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Okay, all right, what's going on here?" So I think.
So you had no idea that you were Singaporean back then.
Okay, so when years ago, I thought that my mom renounced help me renounce, or because I left Australia before a certain date, that I wouldn't have to go and do my national service.
Okay.
So and then just I didn't think about it. I remember getting a letter. I remember getting a letter once, and
Mm-hmm.
then my mom, uh, they found me. I think they sent a letter, Mindef or something, or maybe I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Sent a letter saying that I have to fulfill my national service, and then I don't know what happened. I think we just bought Bodo. I think we just but
Disregarded.
because my mom said no, you left before age 12 or something. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, and then I didn't get bothered. I remember getting stopped in Changi Airport once.
Okay.
I was coming back from Australia into Singapore, and then the ICA guys they went, excuse me, can you come with me? So have you ever come back to Singapore, and then in Terminal 1 there's if you go down the escalator,
Right.
there's
Mm-hmm.
an escalator, and then you see the terminal right.
Yeah.
To the left there, there's like a lounge ICA area there. So they took me over to there, and they said, hey, have you you know you have to do your national service or something like that. I said no, I've already I said look, I've already renounced my citizenship ages ago, and I lived in Australia when I was like 10 and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, okay. And then he let me go, and then that was it.
Okay.
And then I
So,
was like, oh, okay, all right.
so that kind of meant like it's not a big deal then, right?
Well, they took me aside, and then they were kind of checking everything, and the thing was, because I never went to like government school here,
Mm-hmm.
um, and probably because I didn't have that record, uh, maybe they could only trace it back so far. So
Mm.
yeah, so I went in, and then so years later it came and bit me on the butt, and I was so yeah, back to MOM. They're saying, hey, he's still a citizen. So I went to ICA, and they were like, yeah, you are, and where have you been?
Where have you
And
been?
then yeah, and then I went to try to find I went to CMPB,
Mm-hmm.
because they're like, oh, you're gonna have to do your national service now.
Right.
So I was like, okay. um, Went down there, did the tests. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was doing, man. But the only thing was that I wasn't doing anything anyway, because I
Mm.
was unemployed, yeah, maybe I did the teaching thing for a while, but but yeah, and then I got the letter,
Uh-huh.
and at the time everyone was thinking, oh, he will, you'll probably go to police,
Right.
because
Right.
like army, because your mom lives in JB, your father is there, you were late and everything, you're like a so a
Mhm.
high risk. so 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 yeah, I remember getting the letter, and then they said, you've been posted to the SCDF. I was like, what's the SCDF? And
Civil
then
Defense
found
Force,
out,
man.
yeah, I feel about civil defense. Oh, so a fireman, a fireman. So I was like, what? And and that was then I think it was about 6 months. Then I had to go so
Okay.
into I think it was around 6 months.
Hmm.
Maybe that was my intake. It was in March. Um,
So,
yeah.
sorry, just to backtrack a little. Basically, what happened was you used to grow up here in Singapore, and then you left, and then is that what happened?
Okay. So yeah, that's there's a big chunk that's missing there. So when I was younger, I let me get the timeline straight. So I grew up in Singapore,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't go to a government school. I went to an international school at the time.
Ah, okay,
Um,
right.
so from primary 3 to 4,
Mm-hmm.
I was at this place called Singapore Preparatory School. It was at Maya Road, down at East Coast Marine Parade down there.
Okay.
and it's closed years ago. But then the school after that is Dover Court Preparatory School,
Mm-hmm.
down at Dover next to UWC.
Okay.
So I spent like a year there, and then primary five, and then after that I went to Australia, and
Mm-hmm.
then I I pretty much stayed there for about 14 years.
Wow.
Did my university, I mean my high school and my university there,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did a little bit of work, and then after that I left and came to Singapore, and then I went to
Why
um,
did you come back to Singapore though?
oh that's a story in itself. um,
Generally speaking, just seeking
I
employment or
no, I just wanted to have an adventure.
okay.
No, I was just it's kind of there was okay. So how I ended up in Singapore was where I wasn't happy, um, and then someone that I sort of knew as an acquaintance that I knew, right,
Mm-hmm.
he passed away on a motorbike accident,
Ah,
and I
okay.
was just like I don't know what it was. I was just thinking, oh, you know, life is short, things
Mm,
can go, you know, like you're young. I was 20 something, and then this guy is just like gone, and that's
mm,
it. And so it's like, you know, what am I doing here? So
right.
after that, and then my mom was like saying, you know, do you want to come with me and my aunt and uncle, and they're gonna all go to uh, Umrah, so to
Okay.
Mecca and Medina.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, you know, let's go. Maybe I do need some religion in my life right now, and I went there, and after that, my aunt and uncle from New York were on the trip as well, and they asked if I wanted to come up to New York and spend some time there,
Mm,
and I did. But the problem was is only on I could only spend there like a few months at a time, like 3 months at a time. I
mm.
had to come back. So anyway, on my second trip there, my aunt said that, hey, you want to I have this idea for a nonprofit organization. Do you want to
Okay.
help me out with that? So
This
I
is
just
in New
fast
York, right?
forward. Yeah, it's in New York. So I fast forward a bit. So after we set up the organization, I worked there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that I came back, and then yeah, and then was unemployed. Then I
Tried for
finally
the
got the
teaching
job.
job.
The job got me into, said, hey, you know what, you're Singaporean. Then I got the letter, and then I found myself at Jalan Bahar with all these other people who are much younger than me.
You were 26, if I'm not wrong. You mentioned, right, when that happened.
Okay, I was 20. I'm trying to think what exactly was the date. It's March 2009. Was it 20? Sorry, it's either okay. 2000. So I went in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So 2009, I was 20. Ooh, I was 26, turning 27. Jeez. Okay, we added a year onto that.
So at 26, you entered international service,
Yeah, and then a month later, I turned 27.
right?
Yeah,
So
so I was
what was
like,
that like, man? I mean, like the introduction, and for most of us, we experienced national service at the age of about 18 or at most 20, 22. Right? I've never heard of somebody who's experienced national service as late as after 25. So I mean, also the thing is that at the age of 25, usually people are trying to figure out their careers. They're trying to figure out they're finishing their schools,
right.
universities. How was that for you to be entering a national service at that stage of your life?
It was the only thing that was okay about it. The whole thing was that
Mm-hmm.
um, because of the global financial crisis, there wasn't much going on.
Mm,
So in the sense that I was, you know, able to do something
right.
around the time, But it was a real culture shock for me to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Having grown up, not I've grown up with like Australians and really white Australians, and just not having, it was just such a uh, I didn't know any, like I didn't have any background in any uniform groups.
Mm,
So
right.
I didn't know how to do any of the commands, and they thought because I was older and stuff that they would put me in charge of everything, but I was lost, man. I was like drum IC and lead the platoon back, here and there, and um, I couldn't say my Kekanan Lurus and
Ke kanan lurus.
Han, uh,
Hentak kaki.
yeah, yeah, Hanzakaki. What was what's this? What's the one to straighten up your lines?
Isn't it ke kanan lurus?
Yeah, and then yeah. So there was like, what is it? What's look to the front? I can't think of it right now.
Pandang ke hadapan.
Yeah, fine. So I remember I was in front of, we were just because we had to, like, from the canteen, like
Mm,
life of a recruit,
yeah.
right? So we have to march back to the bloody the dorms, right?
Yeah.
So uh, she goes, and I'm standing there, and the instructors like try to tell me the instructions, though. I was like, oh, it was just terrible, man. It was so bad that they eventually, okay, who can take over? That was terrible, man. I just really had to uh, learn Malay.
Hmm,
Like I knew a bit, like I could get, I want to eat that, or where's the toilet, or
right.
how do I get here? But, but, I just had to start learning. It was very stressful. I hardly slept the first night.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it
that's
was
normal, I guess.
it was like, oh, it's crazy.
Right. But what was it like though for you? Like, I mean, because when you came in to back to Singapore, it's not like you had you had a decent amount of time to integrate into Singapore's culture. You went straight into national service, which is not really, which is a more authoritative, hierarchical kind of culture, right? So, have you been around that kind of culture before, or that kind of environment?
Uh, Not. It was kind of weird because the one thing about um, being, I think one part of the thing was that my dad was strict,
Okay. Mm.
so it kind of set me up in a way, like, just to be able to follow orders. But at the same time, what really and okay, I get the regimentation and stuff, but
Mm,
it's very like, part of my ego was like bruised every day when
yeah.
these young kids were like telling me what to do. You can't do anything, and and I remember this little PTI, man. I used to hate him, man, because I went into the what's it called, PTP thing. So
PTP,
I was
physical
PTP
training.
is like physical training program or something like
Okay.
that. So what
Uh-huh.
I do is that before the batch, or like proper intake, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people who didn't pass the, is it the NAFA test? The,
Right.
like, your, right, people that didn't pass,
IPPT and
they
all that.
had to come in a month to get into shape. So
Mm, yeah.
basically all it was is just like, PT all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were like, you would do some lessons on rescue equipment and things like that, but most of the time you were like out and you're like sweating, and
Yeah.
you're screwed by the PTIs, man. Oh, and yeah, so that was tough. Like, there was a point in time I was thinking, oh, I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? This is ridiculous. And I'm like, I felt really bad. I felt very isolated in everything about this, because
Mm,
where I was, and we're having to do this stuff, and it was very difficult for me to take it initially.
Mm. And how did you manage to adapt to it though?
I Interesting. I just remembered I wrote a blog.
Huh.
I was
Okay.
writing a blog. I see it's still. I'll send it to you. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting for you to read. So I I just had good made good friends,
Mm-hmm.
good bunkmates. I'm still friends, still in touch with them,
Mm-hmm.
and just they kind of just kept me sane, I guess, in a
Right.
sense. Um, and then eventually, it was okay.
Mm.
Eventually, I got through that time, and then I think that was kind of like the worst time. That initial part, yeah. But just starting to make friends,
Mm.
starting to just get into I'll not say the culture, but just like adapting and just oh, you know what it is. Sometimes it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's this movie with Jake Gyllenhaal ages ago. It was called Jarhead.
Right.
All right. So
Yeah.
basically, I don't know if you've ever watched it, but I remember watching this movie. And what it was is that what a jarhead was is just like you are like a troop, like your your head. You're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to keep. You got to keep it empty
Mm.
as a soldier. So you're not allowed to think. You just follow orders.
Yeah.
So then half the time I was like, okay, just don't think about it. Just don't rationalize it. Just do it. And then the faster you do it, the faster you can, get on with life and stuff like that. So
Yeah. It's
yeah, so
true.
I had to attempt really to kind of get through that. I just had to just go through it.
Mm. But how was it though? Because like I mentioned earlier, at that stage when you're 26, 27 years old, you're also, I don't know, were you also focused or worried about your career? Like, finding stability in your life? Because I'm what I know about national service is usually when we go in pretty young, we don't really have that goal in mind. So it's kind of like, even if we waste 2 years and don't read a book during national service, or we don't bother studying or growing, it doesn't really matter, because after that we still have university or other educational programs after that. But at
Right.
26 and 27, did you find like it was tough to kind of like cope with having to be a jarhead and just follow orders, but still you're worrying about your future and your stability?
Um, to be honest, uh, initially, initially I wasn't thinking about it, but here's what when I remember sitting in one of the training sheds, and this guy was talking to me, and he was saying, he's like, Mark, you're so old, you should be married, you should be, out doing this, and then I was like trying to shake it off, but then sometimes you know what, it's like then it starts to get to you. Yeah, you know what? I am old. What am I doing here?
Mm,
I should be getting married, or I should be like going in a job. So yeah, I think I did have like a time where I was pretty down about the whole situation about being
mm,
there.
right.
Um, but again, um, I was lucky to be had had strong people around me at the time.
Mm,
My batchmates. So I mean, it's either like it got to me. I would say it got to me, and there's a hotline to call a para counselor and stuff like that. But
yeah.
they didn't really do very much, to be honest. But at the same time, I think I just yeah, it's in the back of my head, but you can only do what's in front of you.
Right.
So
Mm,
it's something that I had to get through, something that there's good things and bad things, and the thing about, I think, in when you are in a like a recruit life or training life, or like when you're going through the specialist course,
hmm
there's always most fun time that you'll kind of have, because at first, you do yourself like uh like team building, right? So then you,
Mm.
at the start, what's the first, you form, is it forming, then storming, then
Norming.
norming, then
Yeah.
performing, right?
Yep.
So you get to see all of that, and then you get to grow, and you all become like closer together because you go through all the crap,
Yeah.
and you laugh about it, and then you eventually become like brothers. So
Mm.
um and I think that that is important. And I think I was just able. I saw people who really, what's the word, uh,
Grow.
like I am Saket, or like, what I mean, like
The
the
chowking, is it?
Cowkins and things like that. I
Yeah.
was like, oh man, come on, like you guys, like I'm older than you, man. I'm doing this. And you guys look, you're beating me on the IPPT tracks and things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, and that's important. You gotta, times like that, it's always good to, and any part in your life is that you have to be able to have a good circle around you,
Mm.
or a good support system, whether it be your family, whether it be your friends, right? You gotta have that thing around you, because life's gonna come at you, and sometimes you're gonna be strong, but sometimes it might come out of nowhere, and you just get hit, and you need someone. Hey, you know what? Get yourself up and get going. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, from the experiences you've shared with me as well, it always sounds to me like some of the best times of your life came from your national service time, right? I mean, as tough as it was initially for you, I think you mentioned like some of your best friends, some of your best mates. Even now, when you share your Facebook posts, or I think it was yesterday, it was featuring you and a group of your batch mates from
Oh,
national service, right?
I'm not sure, because there's a couple of times I've been on the fire surface, but yeah, but
Mm,
um, those times are quite dear to me, even though they were like, um, sometimes you just sometimes when you go through something, you don't realize how maybe important it was for you, or how much you would have grown
mm,
through that thing, because at the time you think, and I remember before going into it, I was like feeling like crap, and and like all those things, and just like, when you get out of it, and when you look back,
mhm,
and you say, yeah, well, I managed to go through all of that, or
mm,
I was managed to do this or do that, or push myself to somewhere where I didn't think I could. I mean,
yeah.
like, I would say that, if you asked me when I was growing up that I would be a fireman at one point in my life,
Mm,
I would tell you you're crazy. And I was saying, there's no way, like, be a fireman or serious. But I was, I was a fireman, and I
mm,
was able to go out to station and live the life, and I was very proud, and ride in the pumper, and
yeah.
go, put out fires and things like that. So it
Yeah.
was a very proud time for me, and I was the most fit I've ever been. And I
Mhm.
say I haven't been because I haven't been that fit since. but but just from where I was,
Right.
and to be that fit at that time, I was like, wow, that's it was a good thing.
Mm, yeah. Because it was supposed to lead me to my next question, which was coming in from a different culture, a different country. I was wondering, from your perspective, do you think that national service has its benefits? Like, I understand why we need to have national service here in Singapore, but from your perspective, coming from somewhere else, right? When you have to come into Singapore and serve it, do you find like it has beneficial kind of effects? or impacts on you and I don't know the people around you as well, maybe?
Um, I would say that it had a positive impact on me.
Hmm.
I would I would say that I think it's a good thing. I think it breeds some sort of like discipline,
Mm.
and it's, I mean, it's like anything in life. It's that it's like it's how you take it, right? It's
Mm.
whatever like comes your way is how you react to it. So the only thing I would say about the national like service, it may go a little bit too long.
The 2 years?
I think I was, yeah, I think
Yeah.
okay, for me, I think
Hmm.
I was very very fortunate in the sense that I was able to get into SCDF. I was able to go become a specialist. What's it called? Like a setcom.
Hmm.
And I was also able to go into station
Right.
and become operational, and um, serve out my national service like that.
Hmm.
Um, Time went quick. I 24 hours on, 48 off. But that is that's like great for me because I mean, like that sort of vocation, because you're operational. You get to use those skills, and then you have some time. But so the 2 years went by very fast. But if I was to say, if I went to the army, right, and
Hmm.
I had to stay in camp, during the week, and then um, or go into a different vocation where I was just wasting away,
Hmm. Hmm.
then it would be a waste of time. But I mean, at the same time, like if you have all that time, maybe you can do some study and stuff, right?
Right. Right.
But at the same time, it's just I was just very fortunate that I got that the chance to do that path. Um,
Hmm.
Coming from a different culture, uh, yeah, it is different, but I think you kind of have to go. You kind of, for me, right? If um, to be in that situation, it really, I really found out more about myself.
Mm.
Found out more of what I was capable of, and if I wasn't in that situation, I may not have ever pushed myself. I guess that's
Right.
one of my personality things. I would have pushed myself so hard in running or these things. So,
Mm.
but at the same time was I got to learn a different side of me, and at the same time I also got to learn what it's like to follow orders, give orders, and that kind of helped me in my next vocation later on, where I would become a senior officer at the airport emergency service.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So that is, yeah, like I said, that coming from a different, can everyone go through it? Yeah, everyone can go through it, but I mean, not everyone's. I mean, you- everyone's gonna have a different sort of take on it, right?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So maybe you
So
could
as
touch on some of the adaptations you had to make to try and fit in as you started.
um, well, I had to start speaking a bit differently,
Hmm.
and trying to. I know it sounds strange, but it's either I change or I make everyone else around me change. I was like, oh, well, you know what? It's gonna be just easier if I just change a bit, just to talk a, talk with a bit of slang and tone it down.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, and um, the one thing about me is that I'm very uh, it's quite easy for me to make friends.
Mm. Yeah.
So just to kind of have that circle around me, or just to have build friends and build friendships around me, help me out to and I did find people who are like I could talk to
Mm.
and talk about this. So I mean, it's hard because you're with all guys, right? So
Yeah.
you try to tell people your problems and stuff, but people kind of knew. Um, People were like sort of like take pity on me in a sense, but eventually. It was just trying to get and I'm kind of lucky in a sense that I look Malay, right? So it's not too bad. I don't stick
Yeah.
out that much, right? It's just when they see my name tag and it says Mark and they go, "Oh, you Filipino ah?" I go, no. But uh generally it was okay. People are okay. I mean, generally like okay. So all the the people were like yelling at me and yeah, I hated it. I
Mhm.
hated it. Hated the hey, like little 18-year-old kids like yelling at me and telling me half right change and those things. I hated that, man.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it when it was coming from older people. I was
Mm.
like, okay, that's your rank, man. That's your rank.
Yeah.
But sometimes it was like, there's like sometimes where it's like discipline. Sometimes
Uh-huh.
when it's discipline, sometimes it's others they just want to like screw your day up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And then that's when you're like you watch out. You get out of camp. Don't let me see you outside. Don't let me see you outside. Yeah. So it's like that. But
Mm.
generally, I have I have a respect for authority.
Mm.
And I think that most people like in Australia we do. I mean, in Australia people get up to a lot of crazy things, but when like police show up and everything, we're like, okay, yes sir. Sorry
Ah,
about
okay.
that. So and then my dad was pretty strict with me as well. So um kind of like, I'm used to like uh, okay, all right, whatever. So for me, it wasn't too much, but I can see how it can be um, uh, difficult. Probably
Yeah.
more difficult for other people, and that's why I say I think probably best blessed with my personality type. But I if God will God will put a burden. Was it God only puts a burden on you that you can handle, that He knows you can handle.
Yeah. Mm.
So yeah, I got through it.
Cool. I was also wondering, you mentioned earlier that national service showed you a side of you that you didn't know about yourself, and also you learned a lot about yourself in terms of pushing the limits and all that. You mind sharing with a little bit more detail, like some of the stuff that you learned?
Yeah, definitely for me it was uh, it was like physically.
Physically? Okay, yeah.
Physically, I never thought I could run 2.4.
Really?
I honestly thought I never thought I could run 2.4. Like when I saw like, oh, you got to do 2.4, you got to do this timing. It's like,
You mean
no,
while studying in Australia and all that, running wasn't quite like a mandatory and
no.
all
I
that?
mean, I played football when I was younger. I played like football.
Hmm.
Um, but we didn't really do time tests. And then when I went to, I played till I was about 18, but I don't remember them setting up. We never set out like, here's 2.4, you got to run it in this time.
Gotcha.
We just jog around and and stuff. So
Mm.
and then university, I wasn't doing anything. So there was this big gap that I wasn't doing anything. So I really didn't know if I could do it, and I hate running. So and I remember like semi throwing up when. Oh, you went to army, right? You went to
I
army,
did,
right?
yeah.
Nah, okay. So there was this track at the Civil Defense Academy. So
Hmm.
you have to one round about this track. So the track is about 800 meters or something, just to go around
Mm.
around the facility. So the PTI was taking us over there. I think on the second one, I like semi threw up there.
Uh,
So I was like, oh my god. I was like, oh no. And I was really stressed out about the whole IPPT thing, but I managed to get. I remember, I think I got silver for the first time. I was like,
hey.
wow, I can do this.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I was
So physically, it was
uh
a
physically, yeah, and then because with firefighting, you have the, the suit,
hmm.
and you have the what the like the bunker gear, so you got to wear the tank and this and carry the hoses
Yeah.
and the dummies and all those things. So it was just, I mean, like Singapore gets hot, man. But you don't know what hot is until you have like a bunker suit on and standing out in the yard
And you're
and
playing with fire as well, right?
oh yeah, and playing with fire. Actually, it's nice if it's fire, it's okay because you got the hose to like kind of cool you down. But it's
Okay.
um, just doing drills and just being out there in the hot, man. It's no joke. It's no
Hmm.
joke, man. So
Right.
so just going through that, and it was only I think once I fell out. I couldn't breathe properly, but the rest of the time, because there's always this fear of heat exhaustion.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you probably know in army as well, right? But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
with heat exhaustion, once you reach a certain limit or push to a certain limit, right?
Yeah.
Then your mind snaps and then you start doing crazy things. So
Yeah.
you always have that kind of fear, but thank goodness I never experienced that. Luckily, so
Hmm.
thank goodness for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, what what was your original question? Oh, yeah. So,
What did you
and then
learn about yourself? Yeah.
yeah. So, um, just firefighting, man. I didn't never, like I said before, I never thought I could like do the rescue things. I never thought I could be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, it was just
Did you manage to
and then
save lives?
being in command. Hmm. Not. I mean, maybe a couple of times, but not really. I never really got to get experience to have a really big fire.
Hmm.
Some lot of stuff where I was like road traffic accidents.
Hmm.
Um, we would have quite a number of rubbish shoot fires,
Okay.
and yeah, just here and there arsonists, a little bit. So nothing much, nothing really huge.
Hmm.
Um, I was the um, yeah, my rota for that time, because it comes in seasons, but my rota for that time didn't really get anything big.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, just to be in command and to um, be able to lead.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I didn't think I was able to. So yeah, and people look up to me. Um, I have no idea why, but they did. Maybe because I was older, probably.
Right. And if I could ask you now, like looking back, right, what would you say NS has helped you with in your life?
It's helped me join into not Malay, but every Singaporean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every Singaporean has their NS story,
Yeah.
so it's allowed me to be in that conversation.
Okay.
So, but having connections and having, I mean, it's uh, it's I had good memories, and I have good friends
Mm-hmm.
that I still have, and what has it taught me? I guess it's taught me a certain disciplines, a certain way um, uniform uniform groups work. I guess in a
Okay.
sense, because it seems to be whatever happens in SCDF will happen in other places as well. Yeah. So it gives me that. It gives me, yeah, like plenty of stories, plenty of conversation I can have with people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess what I've learned, what it taught me is that yeah, I can do a lot more than what I think I can.
Mm.
And sometimes you gotta have that push, or sometimes you just gotta be put into that fire to see, you know, what person comes out.
Right. Got it. Love that, man. So you're, in other words, you're really glad you went for national service, right?
I don't know what else would I have done, but at the same time, it's like, um, what's the word? What am I trying to say? I'm just trying to say that we're Muslims, all right? So there's a part like of about faith,
Mm.
right? So you know, um, I think it was part of the plan,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was a good experience. And what would I have done with that? I have no idea what I've done. So, but I just believe that this was the right way and where I was supposed to go. So
Mm.
I may have not realized it at the time, but looking back, I realize it now.
Yeah. And you made the most of it. I think that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I could have just been there and whining all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but it wouldn't have made any difference to
Right.
anything. It just
Mm.
made it. But I just got in, and I think the thing was when I went to station,
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of my. One of the funniest things was that my what they call rota. They call these rotas, short for
Mm-hmm.
rotations. Yeah. So my rota
Yeah.
was the youngest in the station, and 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 the funny thing was is that when I went in, I
Uh-huh.
was the third oldest in the rota. So I can't remember how many is in a one rota, but yeah, I was the third oldest.
Uh-huh.
But there was a few the regulars were kind of like in the mid 20s and stuff. So I was able to have like friends and stuff.
Yeah.
A few more people around my age,
Thank goodness for that,
and that
right?
was fun. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think that's what really worked out. I think that
Mm.
if I didn't have that, and it just seems like it was meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely was, I think. And I like the fact that you made the most of it, because I do have a lot of, I did know a lot of people who, just like you mentioned, complained and whined about it and then didn't make the most and just, I won't say wasted, but they just the 2 years went by. So
Yeah,
yeah, at least you made the most of it. So that's cool, man.
yeah. I mean, we
Thanks.
all have our NS stories of how hard training was and
Yeah.
how jalat this is.
And about the encik and the
And the
masters
encik,
and
wah, abang encik, ada
the...
apa? Yeah.
Yeah, we all got that.
Yeah, we all got those stories, man. But I think that's the cool, fun part of all that you got through it and stuff. And everyone has, yeah, all the guys have this same NS story.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious to hear, because after a while, like when you hear enough of them, you realize, hang on, these stories start to sound the same.
Yeah.
You have this like uh typical enche that does this, or one officer that does that, or this.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So that's
Cool.
it.
All right, man. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really think it was a good perspective to hear what, like I mentioned, somebody from a different country has about national service, and also like what it was like for somebody in their mid-20s to enter national service pretty late. So I think you gave a good insight into what that kind of experience that was for you. So thank you so much for sharing that, man.
Hey, that's no problem. It's my pleasure. I hope it. I'm not sure how many people can relate to it, but it is. I feel a bit of an interesting story, and
Definitely,
it's my
right?
story. And if you can get something from it, then definitely I'm happy to share it with anyone.
Right. I think you definitely will. For those, I'm sure you're not the only 26-year-old or 27-year-old to have to go into NS at that age. So hopefully, if this manages to reach them, hopefully it gives them some hope and some inspiration. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it will inspire them too.
Thanks for the plug, man.
So we maybe you could put us on YouTube. And you don't know how many people like put in
Yeah.
the right keywords. What's
Yeah.
it like being in going to Singapore national
So, so,
service at mid-20s?
I probably will. I think I will do that. All right, man. I
Well,
appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing that, man. I look forward to having you again in the future. Hopefully, if we find another topic that I know you have a lot of stories to share. Like you were mentioning earlier about setting up a non-profit in New York as well. So I
yeah,
think that could be something really interesting to share about as well in the
sure,
future.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it was great to speak with you here. Um, I should be able to land here anytime. It's time to bring this back into the back into base. And anyway, all the best with what you're doing, and yeah, look, I wish you all the best for it, man.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much, brother. The same to you as well. For those of you guys who don't know, Mark is also right now a financial agent. Am I right?
yes,
Financial
financial
advisor.
consultant. Yeah,
Yeah.
financial advisor. Yes. So yes, I've a lot of life experience, and definitely help people to map out their lives and reach their financial goals in the future.
Hmm.
So I was a fireman and I was protecting people, and now I'm a financial
Advisor.
what is it, advisor and slash insurance agent. So I'm also protecting people in my own way. Yes.
Wonderful, man. I'll put up your contact details after this episode so that
Please do.
if they want to reach out to you, it's right
Yep.
there for them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks
No
a lot,
problem,
Fadlan.
man.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. All right. So thank you once again, Mark, for coming on. For the streamers and listeners and viewers who have been following us throughout this episode, thank you so much for listening in for the last about an hour, I would say. Yeah. I hope you got inspired by Mark's stories. I hope you enjoyed his experiences as well. And look forward to more of his stories because I do want to bring him back to talk about that non-profit that he set up in New York. I think that's a really interesting story to share.
Oh, I got lots of stories, man.
And a lot more to go. Wonderful, man.
All right.
All right. So for the rest of you, don't forget to don't forget to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and join and support us on Anchor FM if you like this podcast. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you guys get a little bit of inspiration from not only Mark's stories, but in the previous episodes as well, because that is the goal of this podcast. All right. So any last words, Mark, before we head off?
No, but please like, share, and comment, and sign up and get people to listen to this. And I think it's a good thing that you're doing.
No.
And you shared with me what was your mission, and I really think it's good. And I think all the best. And if I can help you in any way, I will. And that's it from me. Thanks for listening.
Hey, thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate the support. All right. So I think with that, that's the end for today's episode. So thank you once again for listening, and I hope to see you guys next time on another episode of the Deep Culture Podcast. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Signing out, Maverick.